The Funk Bible gets super funky, and on this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast, Todd Sanzone and I will be teaming up again to talk about Prince's Superfunkycalifragisexy. That's the song we'll be discussing on this episode, and I welcome back to the show, Todd.
Hello to you and everyone listening. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, glad to have you back. We talked about Under the Cherry Moon. That was our last collaboration for the show, which is a very different song than this one, I would say, from a soundscape perspective. Superfunkycalifragisexy is clearly kind of like one of those takes or spoofs of Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious from Mary Poppins, the 60s movie with Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. That's anybody who's familiar with that movie, familiar with that song, it's a clear connection that Prince was making between the name of that song and the name of this one. But besides that, I mean, that's where the similarities kind of end between the two songs.
Yes.
I would say. And as I mentioned in the intro, the album, the Black Album, never really technically had a name. I mean, that's just what we've dubbed it over time, because an album with no name and just a plain black cover, plain black sleeve. Got to call it something. I mean, there's been other black albums in music history that came after this. There was, Metallica's self-titled album with the black cover. There was Jay-Z had one as well in the 2000s. So it's kind of like one of those tropes in music that has just been passed on after Prince's infamous Black Album.
I guess Prince's was first, yes?
It was. It technically was.
Yeah.
It wasn't officially released until after Metallica's, but we all know that this was created in 87 or 87, 86, 87 for an late 87 release until it got pulled. So before we get started talking about the song, Todd, as I've asked all of my guests who've been on episodes for this album thus far, what is your kind of history with this record? Do you have any Black Album story you wish to share?
Yeah, I mean, only in kind of putting it in context of the time. So at the time that this was supposed to hit, 1987, late 1987, I was 15 years old, and just coming off of the back-to-back albums, Purple Rain, Around the World, Parade. This is the heart of Prince fandom for me. This is what kicked it all off for me, right? So by the time Parade was out and playing, and I was full head over heels in love with Prince. And so at that time, I was beginning to sort of dig around and see what else could I find by Prince besides these albums that I have. So I was starting to try to go back and pick up singles, and I was just beginning to hear about the existence of bootlegs. I didn't know what bootlegs were at that point. I was just beginning to learn that there was other stuff out there that wasn't official, wasn't whatever. So bootlegs. So I didn't know anything about the Black Album in its time, in December of 87. It wasn't until about 6 months later that somebody that I met in high school, who was a Prince fan, said, and he had already given me some stuff from like the Crystal Ball time that hadn't been released yet. He'd given me some tapes. He's like, dude, you know about Black Album? I'm like, no. He's like, take this home and listen to it. I'm like, okay. So he gave me a cassette, and that was the first time I heard it. Was in probably, I don't know, spring 1988, let's say. And really, beat down cassette tape. Sound was poor, but the music was there, dude, and it blew my mind, because what is this? This is funky. This is cool. Why didn't this come out? And I lived with it for a while in that poor condition, but still loving the fact that I had some new Prince music. So yeah, got into my hands right before Lovesexy came out too. So it was like a 1-2 punch right back to back for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who have shared their stories, one of the most common, well, there's like two common denominators in all the stories. One, you received it from somebody who received it from somebody who received it from somebody. Like,
Right.
just had to know somebody who was in the know. And
Right.
number two, poor quality audio. And
Yeah.
that was just something you had to live with. If you were going to listen to this in bootleg form, it was not going to be in pristine quality, and that's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people would rather just have it in poor quality, at the time at least, than not. So I mean, it was a no-brainer, basically. Yep.
Still to this day, with all of my music, I prefer crystal clear, full, dynamic range sound. But if I have to hear it in poor sound, just to hear the music, if that's all there is, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's still songs from the vault that have never been officially remastered and cleaned up for our ears that you can find out there, and they sound crummy, but it's still, even in 2021, we're like, yes, that's a nugget of Prince lore I don't have, or that's this is the only way I can hear it, so it's good enough for me.
Yep.
Okay, so this song, again, with a title like that, Superfunkycalifragisexy, you kind of, at least I get a little bit like it's going to be, we're going on quite a ride with this song. And it's going to be, well, funky, of course, and probably sexy. And anything else that we get out of the song is going to just be bonus. But this is one of those songs for me that, I never really spent a lot of time with the lyrics. Not in the way that I did with a song like Bob George or Cindy C, where I felt like, some of the themes in the music and the lyrics were more upfront or of interest to me. Uh-huh. This one seemed a little bit more abstract, and so with the music as fast and funky and loose as it is, the lyrics always took a back seat.
Yeah.
And so I never dug too much into it, but as we start going through the lyrics and start talking about the themes of this song, it becomes a little more evident to me, at least, even though it wasn't for years, what Prince is trying to convey in this song. We probably have the same ideas of what Prince is trying to convey in this song lyrically. I mean, from a musical standpoint, it's fast and funky, and it's meant for dancing, right? I mean, it's a dance jam for the most part. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this song in general before we start talking about the lyrics? Yeah, where does it fit in your mind on the Black Album as far as like strengths and weaknesses?
Oh, it's just one of the strongest tracks. I mean, and I think Prince thought so too, because he put it in the Lovesexy live set, right? So it and Bob George were the two features on the Lovesexy tour. So I've got to believe that he felt that these were two of the best tracks on the album, or at least two that fit best in concert setting. So, and the ones that sort of brought that Black Album vibe into the whole storyline behind Lovesexy. How Lovesexy evolved from the spooky electric of the Black Album. Anyway, so yeah, it's great. As far as the song overall, it falls right into a category with some others that I would compare it to thematically, like where he's just describing a sexual interlude, whether he's an active participant or maybe even an observer. I don't know, but songs that come to mind, Darling Nikki is the first one, maybe, or Pheromone from the Cub album, or Rip Op Go to Zippa. It's just talking about getting down and dirty with his girl, or observing some stuff going down. And this is just another one of those. It's a little S&M going on, which is acted out on the concert stage during the Lovesexy tour, and yeah, musically it's just damn funky. And it just the sex is funky and the song is funky. So yeah.
It absolutely is. I think it's a great kind of next song after Bob George, because Bob George is the big kind of like centerpiece of the album, literally, because it's like track number 5 out of 8, so it's like right in the middle, and also figuratively because it's one of the more memorable songs. And again, like this song, it was chosen to be played on the Lovesexy tour, performed on the Lovesexy tour, even though it was coming from an unreleased album. So the themes of that song, violence and jealousy, envy, really were keys to telling the narrative that Prince was trying to express during the tour about his dark and sex-filled, lust-filled first half versus the spiritual, saved Prince in the second half of the concert. And while this is obviously, I think both songs are fun. Don't get me wrong. I think Bob George is a fun song in spite of its dark lyrical content. This song is also fun, but there's some kind of fucked up stuff going on in this song, Todd. I mean, let's just be honest. There's some messed up stuff going on in the song, from a lyrical standpoint.
Can we say artichoke?
We could say it.
Some artichoke stuff going on. No.
Yes. And one of the things that I have kind of read about the song and maybe what it's trying to convey is what it feels like to be on ecstasy. Like, a lot of the lyrics seem to point to that. But I honestly have never taken ecstasy. So I can't speak to it. And there's obviously stories that have gone around the Black Album and why it was pulled at the last minute, yada yada. I don't want to be here to gossip, but when you start going through the lyrics, you start and if you have that idea in your mind, like maybe Prince is trying to express what it feels like to be on an ecstasy trip, then it makes sense to me. Doesn't mean that it's right. Doesn't mean that is accurate, but it makes sense. I don't know if have you ever heard that theory before, Todd?
Yeah, I know the story of, allegedly Prince was given some ecstasy and he went on this trip, and coming out of that is what caused him to want to move away from the darkness of the Black Album and toward the light of Lovesexy, if you will. So yeah, and this, there's certainly some imagery and wording and things in the song that are trippy, to say the least. So yeah.
And I'm not here to definitively state this is a song about an ecstasy trip, because I don't know. I didn't write it. So if anybody else has alternate ideas, and if we have alternate ideas in the course of going through the lyrics, we'll definitely express them. But it's really kind of hard for me now to look at the song in a different way now that I've heard that theory, because it just, the pieces now fit a little bit better for me, for better or for worse. And sometimes that's for worse, you kind of want to have your own idea about a song, and then when you're told a theory, oh yeah, that does kind of make sense, but now that's it's less interesting now that I know that. Or maybe it's more interesting. It just depends on the song and the
whether
lyrics.
It's true or not true, it's believable. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. So the song starts off with kind of Prince doing this deranged laughter,
It's like a pre-Joker laugh.
Yeah, so it kind of sets the stage for us as the listener that this is going to be wild. This is going to be a wild trip.
Yeah.
And it's also basically a kind of, for lack of a better word, a rap song, which is, rap song in the style, in the manner in which he delivers the lyrics. Not a rap song in terms of its music, its beat, but the way that Prince delivers the lyrics, he's basically rapping them, for lack of a better word, which I always find a little bit ironic, considering this is the album that has Dead on it. So clearly, he dipping his toes a little bit into the rap genre. He didn't like some things about it, liked some things about it. He expressed what he didn't like on Dead on It, but he's taking what he does like for a song like Superfunkycalifragisexy. And I think these lyrics fit well in the kind of a rap flow or rap cadence.
Yeah, Prince was definitely he lived in the real world. He knew what was going on around him musically. He could see the advent of hip hop and the progression that it was taking. Maybe he didn't think it was going to last. Maybe he thought it was a short-lived little fad. Clearly, if he did think that, he was wrong. But yeah, this is definitely kind of his first poke at trying to along with, Sign of the Times too, a little bit, bring back the black to his music. And this was even the next step forward in trying to, on one hand, he's got Dead On It, where he's, banging on rappers and hip hop, but he's also, whether consciously or not, incorporating the sound into his song. So
yeah, this is a good example of that for sure.
Yeah.
And even on like Bob George, with some of the slang he uses and just a little bit of the style that he portrays himself as in that song as the, I don't know if he's the protagonist or the antagonist, honestly, in that song.
Right,
but
right. He's both.
Neither
like
here nor
different
there.
parts.
He's both a little bit. Okay, so when he finally starts, not finally, I mean, the song is like 6 minutes long, and there's a decent amount of lyrics, although a lot of it is, towards the end, is just repeats. But the first actual verse of lyrics of the song is, if your body needs water, keep on dancing, 'cause you oughta. Keep the blood flowing down to your feet. Brother Maurice will be around in a minute with a bucket filled in it, squirrel meat. The blood real good if you drink it real fast, but the aftertaste just lasts and lasts. So if you kiss somebody, you'll want to party all night. All right. Okay, so the stuff that he's saying here in this first verse, like, once I heard that it could be about a drug trip, specifically ecstasy, I started looking into, like, what are some of the symptoms? What are some of the side effects of taking this drug? Well, one was dehydration, if your body needs water. And for anybody who's even the tiniest bit vaguely familiar with the drug ecstasy, it's most commonly tied to rave culture, dance culture. And so he mentions right there in the second line, keep on dancing because you oughta, keep the blood flowing down to your feet. So that just gives you, again, imagery of a dance party or, an early rave or something along those lines. So those are some of the things early on in the song that kind of point to that, just like it's potentially what that is about. Then we get the line about, well, Brother Maurice will be around in a minute. Neither of us seem to know who Brother Maurice is. We talked a little bit about this ahead of time, and
I need somebody to hit me up on Twitter with who Maurice is. Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. Yes, I don't know who Maurice is. I don't know anybody in Prince's camp at the time. Any of his friends, none of his bodyguards. I don't know who Maurice is. I didn't spend a whole lot of time researching it, but I don't, just off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Doesn't mean there isn't a real Maurice, but it also could just be, nobody, just a name that he used.
What we need is Dwayne Tudor to come out with his next book.
Yeah, because this song...
Maybe he'll explain it for us.
Because this song was not written in 85, 86, well, at least not documented.
Right.
It was recorded in 87, but, Dwayne's books are all about recording and recording dates and studio sessions. So if it was written in 86, that wouldn't be part of the book. It was recorded, according to Prince Vault, in January of 87. So it just missed the cutoff for his latest book. We need an 87, 88 book next, I guess.
Yes. Dwayne, if you're listening, we're already late.
But I think the squirrel meat lie, man. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the baton over to you. What do you think squirrel meat's referring to here?
I have no idea. Come on. What do you want me to make of this? Don't know. It's bizarre. I guess bizarre. That the squirrel meat was a mention. The first mention I got of it was, why am I blanking all of a sudden? Was squirrel meat mentioned in the song "It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night," or just on the live performance on the Sign of the Times video?
I think it was just in the live performance.
I think so too. So that would have been the first time I'd heard reference to squirrel meat, and I just thought it was funky, funny, whatever. I don't pay it too much mind. I don't want to get trapped and try to dig some meaning out of it. I just think it's funny. Now, that said, we're a lyrics podcast here, right? So we want to dig deep into it a little bit anyway. So yeah, it could definitely be pulled from some trippy, drug fueled, vision that was going on, but or it could just be funny. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could just be some sort of weird abstract phrase that means nothing, or it can be another weird abstract phrase that means, like, he's referring to potentially ecstasy again. Like the squirrel meat, if the squirrel meat is the ecstasy, Brother Maurice is the pusher in this case. Not pusher, just drug provider. We'll just say drug provider.
All right.
And he's got in his bucket is like, I don't know, like a little baggie or container. Who knows? I mean, it's all just, we don't know for a fact what this is. And if we're just using context clues based off of what maybe the song is about, what we think it's probably about, then that might make sense, but it could also mean literally nothing or anything.
Right.
I've heard somebody say that it's referring to female anatomy too. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, that's pushing it, I think.
That seems like a stretch to me, but just goes to show though, when you paint a picture so abstract and so vague, then people can take it to mean just about anything and doesn't make it wrong, even if it seems a little odd to us. But yeah, I'm just curious what other people think about it. Squirrel meat. It's not the last time we'll hear Prince say that, as you already mentioned in a live performance. I also wondered if it was just kind of like a funk phrase or something that he made up to kind of represent like some of those more traditional phrases that, you know, funk musicians would say when on stage to kind of just indicate like this is the time to, like, cues to you know, for horn play or, you know, bass line addition or something off the cuff, seemingly off the cuff, but still planned. Like Prince was good at that. Like he would, everything would be meticulously planned in his live shows, and then the performer or the audience would make it sound like it was like kind of an off the cuff or just kind of like a jam type thing where it wasn't pre-planned. But we don't know what squirrel meat really refers to. We can just guess.
Yeah, I can totally imagine, you know, in a moment of downtime, playfulness during rehearsal, whatever, he's just jawing with the fellas, you know, with Brooks and Wally or whoever's hanging, and some silly comment came out that included the phrase squirrel meat, and it stuck in Prince's head, and then it's got, you know, ended up in this song. So
yeah. And his intention was just to put it in as many songs in a short amount of time as possible. Because we even hear it again on this album.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do we have in this verse? We've got the blood real good if you drink it real fast. Again, that's a really kind of like WTF line. I don't really think that he's a vampire drinking blood. I mean, but it could be a reference to wine. It could be a reference, like if red wine looks like blood. I don't know. It could be any kind of beverage that he's calling blood. This is another thing, like you can just apply whatever you want to believe it is. If you want it to be sexual, you can make it be sexual if you want. If you want it to be drug related, you can make it be drug related if you want. If you want it to be just alcohol or just any kind of beverage that one might drink at a dance party, you can make it to mean that. It could literally be anything because we just don't know. It's that abstract. But apparently it has an aftertaste because it just lasts and lasts. So if you kiss somebody, you'll want to party all night. And that's another line that may point to this being a song about a party drug, really, because that's what the intent of these drugs a lot of times was to keep that adrenaline going so you could party all night, where normal people would just, pass out at bar time or even before that, especially if you've been dancing and, expounding a lot of energy out on the dance floor. You want to be able to party all night. You might need a little help, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess to kiss somebody, you want to party all night because that necessarily pertain to the party that's happening in the club on the dance floor at that moment, or is that I've kissed you, now I want to party with you all night elsewhere as well? And then we start getting into the sex stuff. So the aftertaste is the lingering effects of the drug, and maybe even in the after effects, like coming out of it the next morning or whatever. But anyway, yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's all valid. It definitely could be. This is going to be one of the harder songs for us to like. Well, it's not going to be hard in terms of coming up with maybe options or theories, but I think we'll end a lot of our discussion with could be, maybe, I don't know. Which I guess is fine. It's just I'm not used to doing that because a lot of, I'm so used to having like, this is a very clear song about this. This is a very clear song about this. A song like this, you really can't do that. Not with a lot of confidence, at least.
No. I don't know that I want to draw any direct lines to this song. I'm okay with Big going. I don't know. That's okay.
Yeah. With love songs or with something a little more benign, it's not, you don't feel quite as bad about or painting a picture about a song being about something so maybe illicit or being about something so with negative connotations like drug use. There really isn't much of a chorus here. They repeat the line "Superfunkycalifragisexy." So I mean, obviously, it's just I don't think that even has much of a meaning. Like I don't think there's anything really to talk about there. I think it's just something that he made up. Again, a spoof on the Mary Poppins song, and was like, "That sounds cool. Let's do it."
And maybe he was listening to P-Funk or something at the time too. It's a very Parliament Funkadelic kind of title, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were creating kind of new language, stuff that would, follow into the lexicon, the funk lexicon for a while there. So it's just in the same vein as that, absolutely. The second verse: if you do too much, your skin will be sensitive to touch. The first person that touch you, you'll want to fuck. Take them to your crib and you tie them to a chair and you make funny faces till they get really scared. When you turn on the neon, then you play with yourself till you turn them on. Okay, so this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one.
We're getting freaky.
We're definitely getting freaky here. So, Todd, this is, you had referred to in the Love Sexy tour where there's like a little bit of an S&M scene. Does it kind of follow along a bit with what's the imagery we get in this verse, or is it different?
Yeah, I mean, I think he tries to emulate on stage what the lyrics were. So, the picture of
pretty closely.
They pull up the chair. He sits down. Cat's tying him up, and they play out the lyrics of at least this verse, make it a little visual and fun and a little crazy. To really hit home the bizarre and dark world of the Black Album in that moment in the live show. I like it. It's odd.
Well,
there's no explaining it, but it's odd. But it's great. I love it.
But it definitely fit. I think it fit in exactly like you were saying. It just fit in with what Prince was trying to show in that section of the tour, and that was, or section of the show of that tour, is kind of the real like freaky side of things. This is a bit kinky, and I think nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong being freaky and kinky. And I don't know if he was trying to say like this is the kind of thing that he wants to get away from, because I mean, I guess if you take a step back with this verse and you combine it with the first verse, you get kind of a story that you're being told here about a party going on. Maybe there's some drugs being passed around, some alcohol, dancing. Finally, you meet up with somebody or hook up with somebody that piques your interest. And that's the first two lines here. If you do too much, your skin do too much drugs, possibly. Your skin will be sensitive to the touch. First person to touch you, you want to fuck. So I think like it's been widely acknowledged that ecstasy is another one of those drugs that kind of also acts as an aphrodisiac to an extent. So it's not that much of a stretch to take or to an encounter on the dance floor then to be taken to that next level. Like, okay, we're both on it. We're both experiencing this together. Let's take it to the physical, the physical step next. And that's what this kind of verse feels to me. So now they've left the club. They're at the crib. We've got a little like S&M bondage, tying somebody up, and like the line, you make funny faces till they get really scared. Like acting like a funny face, like making funny faces is a, is like a warm-up exercise, like it's foreplay or something, which is a little bizarre, but hey, in the context of this song, bizarre is the norm. So
yeah. And
It doesn't sound so bizarre.
yeah, and jumping ahead. Well, or maybe we can jump back when we come to it. But the next verse mentions something about somebody with a funny face. So anyway, there's some definite silliness going on, for better or worse.
Yeah. Then you turn on the neon, so guessing he's just saying turn on the light, so that she or he can see the other person playing with themselves until you turn them on.
Yeah, I imagine a strobe light. I don't know.
Maybe if somebody has a strobe light in their house, I guess. Because I always took this to mean like this is back at take him to your crib, so it's back at his or her house or apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So they've left the club at this point. Let's see what else in here. Yeah, so just the whole playing with yourself in front of the other person to turn them on. That I think there's been songs. Actually, I think there's a song that we did together a little while back. Girl.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that, and you had the theory that this is some of the lyrics in that song were about somebody pleasuring themselves in front of their partner as like foreplay.
Right.
And that's a little. I mean, if we take that to this song, then it's kind of like the same concept, except in Girl, it's a bit more. Like I don't know. I get a feeling it's a little more intimate. This just feels like it's like it's just some sort of weird, freaky, drug-filled sexual encounter that it doesn't involve a lot of like true emotions or feelings.
No,
it's just more transactional, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good word, transactional.
They're both on it, so if we take it to mean drugs,
right? I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to make your partner scared in that, or partner. I don't even know if partner is the right word.
We'll just say partner.
Yeah, let's leave it there. So that's kind of weird, but the neon. I always pictured a strobe light. The masturbatory part of the act before the act is not a new thing for a Prince song, I don't think. So we're getting dirty, and now it's going to get a little. He's going to start thinking about what's actually happening here.
Yeah, it's a little more real in the next verse.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
they're still on that high here, obviously in the second verse, I think at least.
Yep.
So there's in the refrain a couple of lines that get repeated later on throughout the song. This beat is on time, refined and designed to make you do the do. Not much to say about that. I mean, do the do is just slang for having sex again. So I think whatever he's talking about, like dancing, partying, listening to music, the beat is on time, refined, and designed to make you do the do. So, the music, I think he's trying to say the music that he's creating or has created has intentions for sexual and pleasure.
Yeah,
that's all.
I think this is Prince stepping out of the character in the song and stepping back into character as himself, the song maker, for a second, and then jumping back into the song after. So,
yeah, exactly. That's a good call out, because I agree with that. All right, so he does also mention the chorus again, Superfunkycalifragisexy, a couple times before we move on to the third verse. Third verse is, the chair goes round and round. I feel like a clown because I'm stripped down. It's all fun and games till the very next day. Till, damn, you don't remember my name. Maybe I'll see you next Thursday night. Maybe I won't. But that's all right. Because in my possession is a signed confession that says I was the best you ever had. Too bad. All right, Todd. So third verse. What do you want to point out here? What interests you about this?
Yeah, so the feel like a clown is a callback to the last verse, maybe making funny faces, and there's some realization about what am I doing? What's happening? There's some little shards of reality are starting to slip in between the drug fueled craziness that's happening. But it's all fun and games, whatever. And then, again, reality is continuing to set in. It's like, okay, next day, you don't remember me? Maybe I don't remember you, whatever. But at least I got this, real or unreal, but it's still funny. The signed confession in my hand to prove that it happened. And I'm the best. Whether you remember me or not, I'm still the best. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants us to make sure that, or wants us as the listener and his partner to make sure that if you don't remember anything, don't remember my name, barely remember what happened,
That's all
what
right.
transpired the night before, at least I've got it. I've got proof, at least through a signed confession, that I was the best you ever had. Like I don't know. I just like, did he write, "Am I the best you ever had?" Yes or no, and then made her
Check,
made her
check yes,
check
check. Yeah, it's
yes.
like we did in elementary school, right? Do you like me? Check yes for yes. Take no.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then sign it and date it so he
right, right,
knows
right,
that
right.
it's her signature. It's just another funny kind of aspect of Prince's personality because this is certainly something he's done before.
Right.
He's very concerned about being the best that whoever has ever had, depending on the song. Uh, I couldn't even tell you all the times he's like talked about, "You were the best I ever had. I was the best you ever had." Being the
Mm-hmm,
best at sex, like
mm-hmm.
that's important to him. It's been important to him for years up to this point. This isn't like a 1987 Prince thing. This is a forever Prince thing. So
Right, right.
yeah, and the chair again. Chair goes round and around, so I get the imagery. This is the same chair that somebody was tied to. Of course, I don't know for sure like who's tied to who's tied to the chair. Um, doesn't really matter. It could be either partner.
Is the chair going around, or is the world around him spinning around?
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, yeah. You get the spins a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Stripped down, so naked, fun and games till the very next day. So yeah, it's basically the come down. It's like, dreading the next day when the effects of the recreational drug or alcohol or whatever it is has worn off, and now you're kind of just stuck with the cold light of day, the reality of the situation you found yourself in. And even though he's feeling like a clown a little bit, maybe feeling a little bit like he was used or vice versa because you don't remember his name. Maybe I'll see you next Thursday, maybe I won't. So he's not sweating it either way, right? I mean, he's feeling like, yeah, we had fun and it's all good. And if I see you again, great. If I don't, no big loss. We weren't in this for a relationship. We weren't in this for feelings.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, there you go. The beat is on time, refined and designed to make you do the do. Superfunkycalifragisexy is repeated again. Further down in the song, we get some repeated lyrics. He'll repeat a couple of lines from the first verse. Keep the blood flowing down to your feet. Brother Maurice will be around in a minute, but he doesn't follow those up with the rest of the lyrics from the first verse. More repeats of the chorus and refrain. Something different later on in the song that he mentions. It's not, I don't know how significant it is, but he just mentions in 7 measures, I want somebody to scream.
Mm-hmm.
Any comment about that?
Significance is the number 7. He's always about the number 7, right? And I think it's just a neat little musical mark where literally 7 measures later, there's a scream that comes in. So, whether, I don't know, it's just a fun little element. I don't think it means anything. I think it's just a fun little musical element in the lyrics. That's all.
Yeah, I think he pointed out the main one, and that's, of course, the reference to 7 again. But yeah, no, I like how he follows that up and actually comes through with the scream later on. All right, so then the 4th verse is pretty much the same as the first with some additional lines at the end of it. So if your body needs water, keep dancing because you ought to. Keep the blood flowing down to your feet. Brother Maurice will be around in a minute with a bucket filled in it, squirrel meat. But then shortly after that, then he says, if you can't beat them, join them. Slamming. Okay, so this one, if you can't beat them, join them. We all kind of know what that means. We've heard that used before in our lives. It's just basically like, kind of giving up, giving in to an extent. Maybe begrudgingly, maybe not. Maybe it's like, that's cool. I'm happy to do this. I was originally resistant for whatever reason, but I've resigned to join them in this case. I wonder what he's referring to here. I wonder if he was referring to, I don't know. What do you think he was referring to? Do you have any theories?
2 that come to mind immediately. One is just 80s drug culture. which, everybody's doing it. Let me give it a shot. Can't beat them, join them. The other is the musical side of things with the, what we referred to earlier about, rap and hip hop. This is the thing. It's not my thing, but why not? Let's give it a shot. And let me jump on the bandwagon for a second. The other thing I'll add as a personal note, this is one of the more, and I remember feeling this way in the middle of like hearing the song for the first couple of times too. This is one of the more bothersome Prince lyrics for me, because it's not what Prince is about.
Mm-hmm.
Prince is about, being a trendsetter, trailblazer, not joining the crowd. So yeah, this lyric always bothered me. In the context of the song, it's fine, but overall, it's a shame Prince had to go to that place, because he's in my eyes, he's above it all. So.
Well, I mean, again, these are probably things that when he ultimately decided he didn't want to release this album, I'm sure it wasn't just because of one thing. It might have been a combination of things, like maybe I was a little too aggressive towards Cindy Crawford, or maybe maybe Bob George crosses the line with domestic violence, or I don't really feel that way about Superfunkycalifragisexy anymore. I'm over the drug thing. I don't want to put out a song that seemingly glorifies drug use. And, a line like, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, is not what Lovesexy was about at all. Lovesexy, the next album, was about blazing his own trail and his path towards spiritual enlightenment, when that was not the cool thing to be doing in late 80s pop music. And that was not necessarily going to be his pathway to further success. So, but he wanted to do it anyway. So that's ultimately what his choice that he made, and he did not join them in that case. I don't think he really followed his own advice with this line later on in his career.
Right.
Well, at least in the immediate future, he didn't.
He joined him a little bit musically in the early 90s.
All right. So then we get basically the refrain again. This beat is on time. And he says, all of the time, so refined, specially designed to make you do the do. So it's just a slight rewording of some of the lyrics that he's already said in the refrain. And then he also mentions, and kind of as the song ends, in 7 measures, I want somebody to, but then he doesn't finish the line. He kind of trails off, which is kind of cool, kind of an interesting way of finishing the song. The 2 songs there on side 2 of the album, of the Black Album, this one and West Compton, are, they kind of blend together like that, and they're of the same sort of vibe too, so it makes sense for them to combine efforts. But that's how this song ends. 7 measures, I want somebody to. So that's the song, man. We've come to the end of the lyrics. Like I said, it's 6 minutes, so it's seemingly a pretty long song, but a lot of the lyrics it's front loaded with new stuff. Most of the stuff in the back half of the song is either repeats or just slight rewordings or rephrasing of choruses and verses and refrains. So, any final thoughts about the song, Todd?
Yeah, if we just sort of step back and look at it, from with a broader lens, it's a party song. It's a dance song. It's a club song. It's so the lyrics, while you can certainly dig into them, and we have, and we should, because they're worthy of scratching your head over at the very least. They're also there to kind of facilitate a groove, or at least be part of a pop song that is mostly a groove, let's say. I don't know. But, the repetition of the lyrics, the repetition of the musical elements in basically the second half of the song, I guess, is just all there to just continue that groove. And it's a groove. And I have a little bit of an extended version of the song, which is nothing more than more musical stuff, but no more lyrics or anything. But it's a good groove. It's funky, man. I love it. And, lyrically, it's funky too.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the song, designed as it is and written as it is and performed as it is, really works. I get why Prince maybe wasn't completely on board with it. And, his way of kind of exercising this song out of him was to probably perform it on stage during Lovesexy tour. Because it's like, you know what? I wrote this song. Maybe it might have been about drugs. And, maybe I had a moment there where it sounded like I was glorifying its use, but I'm going to use that as more ammunition to show the old Prince is dead. This is the old Prince, and I've moved on, and it's okay if I perform it in that context, like this is my bad side, then it makes it all right, because then I can show how I've changed and I've evolved, and that's what he did with the Lovesexy tour. So
yeah, that Black Album section of the Lovesexy show might have been the highlight for me. I mean, man, it sticks out. It was fun. It was, it was theatrical. It was a lot to see as well as listen to. It was in the context of a show coming off supporting an album that had come out a few months earlier, and for most people, they didn't know this music. They're like, what is this? This Bob George beat and this crazy S&M song. Like, what is this? Everybody perked up at that show. Whether you were a diehard or a newbie, like, what is this? So it was definitely kind of an eye-popping, ear-popping experience at that concert.
Yeah, I bet. Hopefully one day we'll get a nice released version copy on Blu-ray, DVD.
Yes.
Where we can experience that for those of us that weren't there, myself included.
That was my first concert experience, a Prince concert experience. That was impressive. The one for me. Yeah.
Lucky you. Congratulations, man. I've heard so many good things about that. I met somebody who isn't even a huge Prince fan today, but back in the late 80s was an enormous Prince fan, and she went and saw the Lovesexy tour. I'm like, man, you don't even like him that much anymore, but you still saw him at Lovesexy.
I was kind of mad at him for not doing Sign of the Times in the United States.
Yeah.
And so I was grateful for the video that had come out in October '87. And I was like, I told my parents, who didn't let me go to see Purple Rain, I said, I don't care what you do, I'm going. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to, because that's probably one of the better, or one of the most interesting, memorable performances, I would say, probably, of his career.
Yeah.
From what I've heard.
Yeah, no, for me it is anyway. I mean, aside from the fact that it was the first, it was, man, it was the most theatrical performance that he's put on, right? I mean, I can't think of anything else. Yeah, so
it's pretty darn theatrical.
Yeah.
All right, Todd. So, do you have any social media handles you want to share with the listeners to?
Sure. So primarily, I haven't been as active lately, but for the most part, I am mostly active on Twitter, in the Prince world anyway. And my handle at Twitter is at PRN, the number 4, EVR, Prince Forever. And I've got the little symbol on the microphone as my Avi, so y'all can look for me there. Happy to interact with you. Send me a note. Follow me. I'll follow back. Love talking Prince with smart people and people who know music in general, besides just our boy. So, yeah.
Cool. I'll make sure to share that on social media handles when I promote the episode. So thank you so much for joining me, Todd. I much appreciate your insight and helping me work through this interesting, to say the least, lyrical song from the Black Album, man. Like, these songs are a trip. This album's a trip.
Yeah. This is this is one of the highlights for me. So I was glad to be a part of the conversation. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is a dope song.
Yeah.
So this has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. You can find the show Press Rewind Pod on social media handles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, also on YouTube now. Check out older episodes as I upload them on YouTube, although they're without the music, but still, I try to put other interesting stuff on there to lure you over onto that social media platform. And, thanks to Todd, thanks to the listeners, and until next time, goodbye.